Welcome to First and 10 with HS Live. I'm sports editor Nicholas Huba. Again with me this week is Mike McGarry, the king of the cow, the greatest high school football writer ever. I don't know, whatever we're going to call him this week. We're going to get to this week in a couple minutes, but let's take a look back at last week. You spent most of your weekend in Ocean City, which is usually a good thing for everybody. You know, you get a nice tan, eat some Johnson's popcorn, some Core Brothers ice cream. But you didn't even get close to that stuff, did you?
I had a busman's vacation. They had the battle at the beach over there, at least Friday and Saturday at Ocean City. Weather and field conditions shifted it out to it became the battle of the Cuthbert Avenue overpass on Sunday, with the game shifted to Camden Catholic. But a really great event put on by the West Jersey Football Coaches Association. And what I liked about it is you were able to see, 6 or 7 teams all in the span of about 3 days. I mean, I saw St. Joe, Holy Spirit, Millville, Red Bank Catholic, Cedar Creek, Timber Creek. It was really tremendous to be able to see so many teams. And usually, the course of the season, you have to wait 3-4 weeks to see some teams. I was able to get a pretty, and the fans were able to see teams and get a pretty good handle on them, all in one place at Ocean City.
Kind of the showcase game of the night, the weekend was the Holy Spirit taking on nationally ranked DeMatha. Despite the loss, I think everyone came away really impressed with Holy Spirit, even on a national level in a way.
Yeah, Holy Spirit played very well. DeMatha ranked number 33 in the country by Max Preps. Still, that score was 0-0 late in the second half, or late in the second quarter, rather. Momentum of the game turned on a DeMatha interception. DeMatha goes on and wins 28-7. But Trevor Cohen at quarterback played a really great game for Holy Spirit, threw for 177 yards, ran for a touchdown. Elijah Stewart and Jameer Smith were impressive at wide receiver. Gavin Roman ran the ball well. So the Spartans, who are number 1, our Elite 11, despite that 28-7 loss, played well. And we'll see if that game has any boost for them when they play St. Joe. They host St. Joe on Friday in the so-called Holy War.
We'll get to the religious implications of that in a couple minutes. But another game I'd like to talk about is Union and Millville on Saturday afternoon. That was played like a sectional kind of state final.
Right. That was a December playoff game. That was easily the best game of the weekend. Millville wins 32-28. And we've heard a lot about these Millville players, right? Not only seniors like LeQuint Allen, who ran for more than 100 yards and a touchdown, not only senior quarterback Nate Robbins, who threw for like 177 yards and a touchdown, but we've heard about the freshman, right? Lodzier Brooks. We heard he was pretty good, and he lived up to the hype. He returned a free kick, 65 yards for a touchdown, and scored the winning touchdown on an 85-yard pass. And he's one of those guys, and there aren't many of them. Some guys, you go to a basketball game, guys jump in the air, all of a sudden you can see him jump higher. He's one of those guys who's running, all of a sudden he just, boom, takes off, starts running faster. So 14-year-old kid out of Millville, a lot of hype about him coming into the season, and he lived up to it on Saturday.
Is it just that he's got that next level gear, that quote unquote, as we call it, the SEC kind of speed?
Yeah, exactly. He has that sort of speed, and he showed it on Saturday with 2 big plays. And for a 14-year-old to come into a game like that and be the difference in a game like that, it was really a high level high school football game, is really remarkable. And it shows why several colleges, including Rutgers, had offered the kid a scholarship before he even played one game.
And Union's not a bad team. Union's a team.
No, Union's perennial power, North Jersey power. They're a team capable of winning a sectional title up in North Jersey. Like we said before, like you said, that game was played at a first weekend in December, championship level.
And that's what we want to see out of these early games. And I think that's why we all enjoy these week 0, week 00. It gives us these kind of weird and interesting matchups that, the teams build on for the rest of the year. You also headed out to the battle by the beach in a suburb of Philly, basically, for Camden Catholic. What were your thoughts on Cedar Creek this week and bouncing back from a rough year last year?
Yeah, I think Cedar Creek is one of those teams that they really played a tough schedule last year. Jim Melody took over as coach, coming down from North Jersey. Speaking of Union, I believe he was a former Union quarterback in the 90s. And I just think the COVID and the pandemic kind of just messed them up. Now he's had a full year there, full year to put in his system, and they have talent. People forget 2019, they won the South Jersey Group 2 title. The core of that defense was mostly sophomores. Those sophomores are seniors now. CJ Resto, guys like that. And they have one of the most dynamic players in the state in JoJo Bermudez, who took about 20 seconds to remind us of why he is one of the most dynamic players in the state when he stepped in front of an out route, picked it off off and returned it 39 yards for score. They also get a boost out of Jaquan Howard, a transfer from Pleasantville, came over about 3 weeks ago at running back. He ran for more than 100 yards, and he really gives Cedar Creek something they never really had before, even when they had the Melton brothers and everything else, was a guy who could just pound the ball between the tackles. Howard gives them that dimension, and it should make the Creek even tougher this year.
What else from week one really impressed you? I thought Mainland had a really good win in a basically a rock fight on Friday night against the AHT.
Yeah, Marlon Leslie, another transfer from Pleasantville over to Mainland, threw for a touchdown, ran for a touchdown to give the Mustangs a 14-7 win over, or 14-6 win rather, over a much improved EHT team, an EHT team that's going to be okay this year. They're going to be able to win some games. The other result that sort of stands out in your mind and it leads to our, game of the week this week is Hamilton only returning 4 starters. We didn't know what to expect of them. Well, what did they look like? They look like Hamilton, right? And they go into Absegami and win there. And now they head down to Ocean City in what'll be our game of the week this week.
Well, it's a perfect transition. I see those Connecticut School of Broadcasting classes are finally working out for you. Ocean City, Hamilton, 2 teams in a lot of ways that are kind of mirror images of each other, had really excellent senior classes the last couple of years, were players on the South Jersey Championship stage, kind of rebuilding in a way, but really not.
Yeah, kind of really not. Ocean City's got more back than Hamilton at the start of the season. They had an excellent junior class, Jacob Wilson running back. Riley Gunnels took over at quarterback. They Mike Gray, really good defensive lineman, tight end for Ocean City. They beat Vineland, shut out Vineland on Friday night in the Battle by the Beach game. And Hamilton, only returned 4 or 5 starters. One of them was AJ Riker, who ran for 165 yards against Absegami. But Hamilton's Hamilton, and they looked good on Friday night against Absegami. Now, and here's the great thing, I think Hamilton starts school today. I don't know if Ocean City starts school today, but tomorrow Hamilton and Ocean City are going to play a football game. Somebody's going to be 2-0. These are both South Jersey Group 4 contenders. If you're at 2-0 in high school football, that's a big deal. It's halfway to a playoff spot. So these kids haven't even been to school yet, but they might be halfway. The winning team might be halfway to a playoff spot.
And now the season starts earlier and earlier and earlier.
Right.
And I'm a big fan of that. I think last week was awesome. But we'll continue on this week. We'll save the Holy War for last. Another interesting game is we talked about Millville. We talked about Mainland. They match up out in Millville this weekend, kind of a trap game in a way for Millville, or, what do you kind of see going on here?
Well, I think it's an interesting matchup from this perspective. Again, somebody's going to be 2-0, which is big. I think for Millville, it's a quick turnaround, right? They played Saturday night. Now they got to play Thursday. They will be at home. We'll see what kind of physical shape they're in. For Mainland, it's a good test. I think Mainland's young, a lot of sophomores on that team, but they do have the junior in Leslie at quarterback, Jabril Mace at running back, ran for about 60 yards against EHT on Friday night. So an interesting test for Millville, and maybe another gauge to see exactly where Mainland is.
Another game this weekend, Cedar Creek's become the showcase team. They play in the Battle by the Beach last week. Now they're on the, what is it called? The Rumble on the Raritan.
The Rumble at the Raritan. Yes. Up at Rutgers. Yes.
Up at Rutgers. I'll be there Thursday night for the actual Rutgers game. You'll be there Saturday. See Cedar Creek against Willingboro, and another kind of showcase game for them.
Yeah, I mean, Cedar Creek, the interesting thing there is I wonder if that game was scheduled when JoJo Bermudez had committed to Rutgers, then he decommitted, opened back up his recruitment. For Cedar Creek, it's a chance to go 2-0. And again, I know I'm going to say it several times during this, little preview here. If you're 2-0 in high school football, that's 25% of your 8 games, which qualify for the playoffs, and 2-0 is a big deal, especially a Cedar Creek team that last year started 0-3 or 1-4 or whatever, really got off to a slow start. So another opportunity for Cedar Creek to play in a big time venue, and the Pirates have the talent to take advantage of it, especially that defense. Guys like CJ Resto, I think he had 9 tackles against Scotch Plains Fanwood in that 52-0 win on Sunday. We'll see what Creek can do this Saturday.
In the big kind of one of the big games of the weekend, Holy Spirit and St. Joe's, they meet a lot of times for really big prizes at the end of the season. That might not happen this year, considering what the state's going to do with the redrawing of the lines and all that jazz. But anytime these 2 or the 3 Catholic schools get together, it's a big deal.
Yeah, it's a big deal. It's wins, losses. It's bragging rights too. It's schools that compete for the same players. You know, the winners got bragging rights when they talk to eighth graders about coming to their school. You know, all that sort of stuff going on there. And it does have, you know, it will have playoff implications this year. Like you said, this year, the parochial brackets are being divided into A and B statewide. There aren't going to be 3 sections of parochial playoffs. There's only going to be 2, which means that, you know, in previous years, you could pretty much count on Holy Spirit and St. Joe meeting in the final. This year, you can't, because either a Red Bank Catholic or a DePaul Catholic is probably going to be down in that group. And, you know, if you want to be in that B bracket, the top seed, right? And the winner of Friday night's game would take a big step towards the top seed, because if you're the 2 seed, you're probably going to have to play a Red Bank Catholic or a DePaul Catholic in the semifinal. And if you're the top seed, you're probably going to be able to get an opponent that's not as tough. So again, it seems weird that it's September 1st here. These games will be playing September 2nd, 3rd. The playoffs don't start till November. But just like with Ocean City Hamilton, there are real playoff implications this week. And that's what makes every week meaningful.
It's never too early to talk brackets. It's bracketology at the high school football level. We both love it. We both try to figure out kind of where everyone's going, and you know more, you know that as well as I do. We all get our little calculators out and figure it all out as we go. What is the one key to that game?
Boy, you know, it's usually a game, it seems like cliches, but it's usually a game that's kind of decided on mistakes, turnovers. Like you know, both teams are so good. The team that cracks first and the other team is able to take advantage. You know, that's what the game usually turns on. I think an interesting fact is, you know, St. Joe had dominated that rivalry when it first started in 2000. I think they still lead at 15-8. But Spirits won the last 2 games. They won 18-6 to start last season, and they won way back in 2019. They won the state non-public 2 title, beating St. Joe in that game, shutting him out 30-something to nothing. So Holy Spirit has got the better of play lately. We'll see if St. Joe can respond.
And that was the St. Joe's team, if I remember correctly, that was undefeated, right? Like in 19, had a really good season going, and they
might have had 1 loss in there, but I mean, it was definitely a St. Joe team that had beaten Spirit a couple of weeks before, and then Spirit came back and really handled them in the title game. And then last year was really a hard-fought game. You know, Spirit won the opener 18-6. So like you said, it's usually a big play here, a big play there, a long pass, a turnover here that decides these contests.
Well, Mike, you'll be on the road all weekend again. I'm heading up to Rutgers for my football game tomorrow night, so I'll enjoy that, and I'll be back Friday night football. Anything else before we wrap up?
No, it's just week 2 of the season. 2 weeks into the season. Labor Day is not even here yet, but there are a lot of big games this week with you know, playoff implications. It seems weird for week 2, but it's going to be like this every week from here on in out.
Guys, thanks for joining us, and don't forget to follow all the action at PressiveAC.com all season long.